Waiwai. The Waiwai live in the forests north and south of the Acarai Mountains on the border of Guyana and Brazil. They depend on hunting, fishing, and gardening for subsistence. They speak Waiwai, a Carib language. There is one Waiwai village in Guyana and 3 in Brazil. The 4 villages have a population of 1,200 individuals. Beauty. The Waiwai concept of Chenfarem is comparable to some of our notions of beauty. Waiwai speak about beauty in terms of social harmony and aesthetic values. Chenfarem refers to things that are good to see, pleasing to behold, and things that make us joyful. Chenfarem is above all a social quality. It is found in many aspects of daily life and celebrated on communal occasions when people from the entire village and other invited villages dress in their finest paints and feathers and gather to share food, drink, song, and joy. Beautiful are those things taken from the natural environment and transformed into Waiwai objects. Making a beautiful feather ornament involves hunting birds from trees and sky, plucking their feathers, and skillfully crafting them into objects that become part of the cultural world. Beautiful objects often come from things that are hard to obtain and from places far away. The most beautiful feather ornaments come from birds of deep forest and from the far reaches of the sky. John Ogilvie, a Scottish settler living in British Guyana in the early 1900s, once traded a knife for a beautiful headdress. To hear his account, touch the feather icon. The trade took place between a Waiwai chief Yafuno and Ogilvie. Many villagers gathered to watch the event. Ogilvie describes the transaction in his manuscript. He writes that he wanted 2 feather crowns and offered a new knife. The knife's characteristics were discussed by the Waiwai for over half an hour.
All this was child's play by comparison to what I was now subjected, namely the history of the hat itself. These crowns are made of feathers from a number of birds, powies, toucan, green parrots, macaws, eagle, and others. I was taken on a verbal hunt after each bird, just who was at the hunt, how and where it was shot, and countless long-winded details. By noon, after some 5 hours' work, I had successfully purchased 2 crowns. I now found I had something to learn in the art, and especially the speed of bargaining.
Beautiful are the objects that unite the work of men and women. Cotton thread, spun by women, is dyed and woven together with palm fibers made by men to form designs in Waiwai hair combs. Beads obtained by men through trade are used by women to make aprons, necklaces, and wristlets, hip pendants, and knee pendants. Feathers collected by men are bound together by cotton string made by women. The combined effort recasts natural materials into beautiful Waiwai ornaments. Beauty involves the transformation of nature into culture. Feathers taken from a host of birds are reassembled into one beautiful headdress. The Waiwai bring nature into the human world by painting patterns of snakes, fish, and plants onto their bodies. Similar designs are woven into baskets made of strips of cane. Nature is the raw material molded by Waiwai, shaped by Waiwai, and made beautiful to behold. Festivals and collective rituals take place in the dry season. It is a time when meat, fish, fruits, and vegetables are plentiful. It is a time when people work together. Men hunt in groups, and the game they kill is shared by everyone in the village. Women harvest large quantities of manioc tubers and prepare bread and drink for great festive gatherings. It is a time of joyfulness. It is a season of beauty. Beauty is the most fully displayed at festivals when men and women share with visitors the fruits of their labor. It is a time when all are adorned in their finest paint, beads, and feathers, beautiful to behold, and a joy for all to see. Making oneself attractive involves a sort of influence over others. When you are beautiful, people want to come and see you. Visitors are important for sustaining the Waiwai way of life, and people come from far away to admire Waiwai beauty. They bring goods for trade, and some may marry into the village. Young men and women make themselves beautiful by dressing elaborately to attract potential spouses. Of a man decorated in feathers, the Waiwai say, "Look at his beautiful feathers. He must be a good hunter." A good hunter makes a very suitable marriage partner, and marriage ensures the continuation of Waiwai culture. Contact. The Waiwai speak a Carib language and live in the forests north and south of the Acarai Mountains that form the border of Guyana and Brazil. Waiwai, meaning tapioca people, is a name given to them by their northern neighbors, the Wapishana. There are two related theories for the name. One account says the Wapishana were so impressed by the quantities of tapioca served by the Waiwai at inter-village feasts that they called them the tapioca people. Another account says the Wapishana, who live in the open savanna where the sun tans their skin a deep shade, considered the Waiwai to be lighter-skinned. So it seems the Wapishana named them tapioca people because their skin color was as light as tapioca. Traditionally, the Waiwai did not use the name tapioca people. They simply identified themselves according to their village, named after a distinctive natural feature or a local river. The Waiwai say some of their forefathers are Farukoto, meaning those who live on the Faru or Mapuera River. In the 1950s, missionaries settled among them and began calling them Waiwai, just as the Wapishana did. As their village expanded around the mission, the Waiwai adopted the name for themselves. Around the late 18th century, some Waiwai began migrating north from Brazil into British Guyana. Northerly migration was probably encouraged by two factors: a desire to maintain the inter-village flow of trade items and to escape the advancing Brazilian colonist front. Native peoples were paying dearly for their contact with Europeans. The Tarumã escaping Brazilian slaving raids in the Rio Negro in the 18th century moved into the territory north of the Waiwai in British Guyana. By the 1920s, the Tarumã were decimated by disease associated with European contact. To prevent the vital inter-village trade network from falling apart through the loss of the Tarumã link in the chain, more Waiwai moved north and settled on the Tarumã lands. The majority, however, were still living south in Brazil when Dr. William Curtis Farabee, leading an expedition for the University Museum, made contact with the Waiwai in 1913. The Danish anthropologists Jens Ude and Niels Falk made their first visits to the Waiwai villages, Yaka Yaka and Mawika, in 1954. At that time, they noted 3 Waiwai villages located on the Essequibo River in British Guyana. The villages had a total population of 70. Another 4 villages with approximately 110 people were located south of the Acarai Mountains in Brazil. The Waiwai villages in British Guyana were separated from those in Brazil by a journey of 13 days by foot and canoe. By 1949, North American missionaries set up a mission between Yaka Yaka and Mawika, just north of the Acarai Mountains in British Guyana. The missionaries offered the Waiwai clothing, tools, and health care in exchange for opportunities to teach Christianity. Furthermore, missionaries took advantage of the Waiwai practice of visiting other villages to reach out and evangelize other native groups. More and more groups left their villages to join the rapidly expanding settlements near the mission. Although these groups spoke several different languages, the Waiwai language became the lingua franca in these settlements, and the political influence of the Waiwai expanded considerably. Although these settlements called themselves Waiwai, they were actually made up of many different independent groups. The trend continues today. In 1991, the Waiwai population is estimated at 1,200 individuals living in 3 villages, 1 located in Guyana and 2 in Brazil. Cosmology. The cosmological level where human beings live is the terrestrial level, the Earth. It is divided into areas radiating outwards from a center. At the center is the place where most of social life takes place. Around the village clearing is the bush, and beyond that, the gardens surrounded by forest, then the distant wilderness, the savanna, and beyond that, vague and faraway other lands. If one travels far enough, one will reach the horizon where sky and earth meet. Traditionally, almost all of the members of a village, 15 to 50 people, lived in a large circular or rectangular house. Below the floor was buried a stone axe. The ground level was occupied by humans and pets. The roof area was divided into upper and lower parts by a storage platform and distinguished by different kinds of palm leaf thatching. Perched above the smoke hole in the top of the roof was an umbrella-like thatch cone to keep the rain out. Giving visible form to the vertical axis was a long center pole decorated with various designs of mythological creatures. Suspended above the ground and protruding far beyond the top of the roof, the pole connected the house and the terrestrial level with the heavens beyond. At the height of the ceremonial season, community rituals dramatize how Waiwai society draws numerous resources from the cosmos. People visit from different villages. Food is eaten from cultivated gardens and wild forests. Beautiful featherwork and bead ornaments are displayed, and mythological and spiritual beings are represented through masquerades and ritual song and dance. In this way, the Waiwai dramatize their relationships to the rest of the social, natural, and supernatural environment. Waiwai decorate themselves to look beautiful and to attract others. The most spectacular adornments are reserved for ritual occasions. At feasts celebrated in the familiar space of the village, visitors and hosts are elaborately painted and decorated with feather and bead ornaments. Some actors masquerade as powerful spirits and mythological beings from the forests and rivers. Through adornment, guests and hosts make themselves attractive. Everyone participates in the beautification of the entire community. Cleanliness and body adornment separate human beings from wild animals. Men and women frequently wash and rub their hair with oil, making it a deep, rich, dark black that shines in the sunlight. Harpy eagles fly high above the earth in the upper skies where the sun shines. The Waiwai say the combination of white eagle down and sunlight glittering in their oiled hair makes them beautiful. Body and face designs are made with red and black paint. Facial designs are usually symmetrical, but sometimes each side of the face is painted with a different pattern. The body is painted with straight lines and right angles. Designs are derived from nature and include patterns representing fish, trees, animals, and snakes. Adornment. Feathers are used to express beauty, status, and influence. When a man is dressed in feathers, Waiwai say, "Look at those beautiful feathers. He must be a good hunter." Female ornaments accentuate the reproductive capacity of women. Beautiful bead aprons are tied below the abdomen and cover the thighs. Women wear long beaded rope necklaces reaching down to the waist, while men wear shorter necklaces. Village male leaders are often the most impressively adorned individuals in Waiwai society. Spectacular adornment is thought to be an essential component of influence and power of persuasion over all social surroundings. The anthropologist Niels Falk observed Waiwai use of body paint in 1954. For his comments, touch the feather icon.
It's not the women. It's much more the men. The men are the ones who are courting the women, and they have to dress up and be nice and with nice patterns in their faces especially, and of course also during many occasions on the whole body, but they use a lot of time every day in order to place their figures, their signs on the face. And I think it's more or less like in a lady's room before the mirror. It's the same situation, the relaxed, a little tense situation that now you are going to make yourself beautiful and with some purpose. I mean, it might be hunting, it might be sex, it might be anything really.
A body clean and shiny with oil, properly adorned in paint, feathers, and beads, is the sign of a full social being. Adornment is associated with many aspects of society: the eligibility of men and women for marriage, parenthood, the skills of a hunter, and the influence of a strong leader. Decorating the body conforms to cultural standards and reaffirms societal values, strengthening ties between the individual and community. When you are beautiful, people want to come and see you. Exchange. Giving and receiving, trading, and exchange are involved in many aspects of Waiwai life. The process accounts for the distribution of many natural and cultural resources. Exchange is a means of survival and growth for Waiwai society. Exchanges take place every day. Personal relations are built upon the exchange of resources, objects, and skills. Women cultivate manioc roots and process them into bread and drinks. Men fish and hunt for meat, and everyone shares in a ceremonial meal. Within the village, products of men's labor are traded for products of women's labor. Feathers collected by men are fashioned into beautiful ornaments with the cotton harvested and spun by women. At inter-village festivals, elaborate feather ornaments are proudly worn and displayed, delighting visitors and hosts. A meal combines game killed by men with crops harvested by women. During festivals, processed foods, cooked meat, manioc bread, and drink, all prepared by the host village, are exchanged for the unprocessed wild game brought by the visitors. Exchanges of food and drink are a way of knitting people together, just like the more complex forms of exchange involved in marriages between villages. To hear about a 1913 trade between a Scotsman and a Waiwai, touch the feather icon. Commenting upon his first meeting with the Waiwai chief Kawinik around 1910, John Ogilvie wrote,
I opened the cases of trade stock and laid them out for inspection. Beautiful steel blue fish hooks, shining knives and scissors, beads of all colors, matches, gunpowder, pins, files, brand new shining axes. When I got to know this chief better, he told me he would never forget the day I first opened my trade goods to his view, and how he could not believe that so much of desperately necessary articles were to be placed at his disposal for barter.
Like Koenig, Ogilvy too was anxious to trade, and many of the museum's collections come counters similar to the one described by Ogilvy, and strips of cane become ornaments, pots, and baskets. Utilitarian and decorative objects are produced for trade with other villages. For over 200 years, the Waiwai have maintained an extensive trade network, stretching through the Guianas and northern Brazil. Items traded by the Waiwai to surrounding groups include talking parrots, hunting dogs, manioc graters, cotton, and spindle whorls. Savanna groups to the north and forest groups to the east introduced the Waiwai to European manufactured goods. Glass beads, iron axes, fish hooks, and kettles were traded for Waiwai manioc hunting dogs. Touch the feather icon for an ecologist in a Waiwai village. Examining photographic contact sheets from his 1954 field trip with Jens Ud, Niels Falk comments on the killing of a tapir. His story provides a good example of how exchange works on a daily basis. The interview was recorded in Professor Falk's office at the University of Copenhagen in December 1990.
We are coming close to a village, and we have just killed a tapir, and which is marvelous, and we thought, of course, that now we would have meat for a long time, but actually we did not nearly hardly get any meat, because they were so pleased that they could just give it away to this village they came to. It was a fabulous gift, of course, in food, so they did it, and although I was the one who killed it. And so, but then we were friends, and we could stay there for quite a while. Of course, they have at times so scarce means that when you have been there for a fortnight, then they say, well, we have no more food for you, so you better leave.
In earlier times, a good hunting dog was worth an axe, 2 knives, a pair of scissors, a piece of cloth, and a small bunch of beads. Today, Waiwai hunting dogs are still valued items and may be traded for large quantities of glass beads, iron tools, kettles, and mosquito nets, items that would be valued at $200 or $300 if purchased in Brazilian cities. Trading is a social as well as an economic activity. Waiwai create new friendships and offer surrounding groups opportunities to join them by marrying Waiwai women. Marriage is a form of exchange that ensures the continuation of society. Like other forms of Waiwai trade and exchange, marriages sometimes involve outsiders, allowing the village to be a part of a wider social universe. Feather work. Waiwai men hunt birds in the forest for meat and feathers. Feather ornaments are made from these birds, found in deep forests and skies above. A hunter removes the feathers from his prey, assembles them into ornaments, and uses them to adorn his body, a visual testimony to his knowledge of the forest and his skills in obtaining resources from it. Ceremonial feather dress is an indicator of political power, social status, and prowess as a hunter. A young male entering manhood shoots every feather he wears. It takes years to assemble the various ornaments that confirm he is a good hunter, and therefore a generous provider of meat for his family and fellow villagers. Feather work involves the transformation of nature into beauty. It requires the cooperative effort of men and women. Women grow cotton in their gardens, harvest and spin it into thread. Men use cotton cord to construct spectacular feather ornaments. The reciprocal nature of male and female labor is an essential component of Waiwai society. Women also wear feather work, although it is less ostentatious than men's. It is the men who attach feathers to women's necklaces, ear pendants, and dance corselets. Men also decorate women's beaded aprons with cords of feathers. But the cord to which feathers are attached is made of cotton, produced by women, and beadwork is a female specialty. The most lavishly feathered ornaments worn by women are part of the beaded dance corselets that adorn the small of their backs. At festivals, streams of toucan feathers, draped over rows of beads, sway with the movements of the dancers as they make their way across the village plaza. Different color feathers used in Waiwai ornaments are taken from birds living in different parts of the environment. Colored feathers are arranged on the body in consistent ways. White down is worn on the head, and white feathers are used for the tallest headdresses. Red decorates the middle, and black the lower parts. Red ornaments connote community, fertility, energy, and health. It protects against spirits that can do harm. White feathers are taken from the harpy eagle, who flies in the upper reaches of the sky. It can contact celestial spirits on behalf of shamans, and in myths is portrayed as a dangerous and cannibalistic creature. The harpy eagle is considered a very powerful bird. Black feathers from the ground-dwelling curassow are used to construct the lower parts of ornaments. These feathers are associated with earth and soil cultivated by women. Curassow ornaments are worn on the lower parts of the body. To hear a myth about how birds receive their color, touch the feather icon.
Fertility, ancestor of all anacondas, once devoured a Waiwai woman who had kept him as a pet. The woman was married to a man of the red macaw people, and for his dirty deeds, Fertility was hunted by the shaman of the red macaw people. When Fertility was found, he was cut in half. His tail jumped into the river, and the river swam with blood. All the red macaw people and many other bird people began to bathe in the serpent's blood, and all who bathed were eventually transformed into red-colored birds. It then began to rain, and all the birds that did not seek shelter lost their red color.